actually did in East and West Godavari district. There were a lot of suicides of weavers. So the government of Andhra Pradesh, that time Mr. Chandrababu Naidu was the chief minister, he asked NIFT people to see whether there is something which could be done. So we actually went and made a study with a faculty team, and then we decided that we need to train these women in garment manufacturing so that there is value addition happening other than just weaving. So one of the things that we realized at that time when we started doing this training program, we did this training program for 13,500 women from weavers family over a period of 3 years. What we learned is being not very well educated, they tend to take more risk. When you get educated, you suddenly start feeling that if you want to be an entrepreneur, there is a risk. So my women empowerment program study that I did, my PhD was a live case study, and it was not on any assumptions. And therefore, those of you who are interested, you can actually download my, paper which I presented in an international conference. I will also forward this to your principal so that you all can get a copy of it. The types of entrepreneur, as Dan Hoff says, there are 4 types of entrepreneur. One is the innovative entrepreneur. Second is an adaptive entrepreneur. Third, a Fabian entrepreneur. And then a drone entrepreneur. So let's actually understand each of this individually. Is it possible to play that film, please, Coco Climber?
So we are playing the video.
Yeah. I think the audio is not coming.
Yeah, yes, we are doing it.
Introducing the Coco Climber and Coco Cycle, the world's first battery-operated coconut-free climber. Mounting a Coco Climber to the battery and tree is just as easy as plug and play. The Coco Climber reduces time and physical effort by at least 30%. The Coco Climber is easy to use for both men and women. The small size lithium battery assists you to climb more trees on a single charge. The Coco Climber has advanced safety features like an inbuilt wireless auto cutoff load detection circuit. With the use of a multifunctional multimedia helmet, share video and audio through the Coco Cycle to anywhere in the world. The Coco Cycle is a suitable solution for rural roads. Coco Climber and Coco Cycle increases rural employment and enhances lives. Introducing the Coco Climber.
On innovative entrepreneur, this is the example I actually shown to you. The thing is, in Kerala, where we are working very closely with the government there, one of the issues that we actually came across is now with all this Manega scheme and all that, there are not people available for climbing the coconut tree and plucking the coconuts. So it's become a major issue there in Kerala, and therefore we thought that we need to do some innovation there, and that is how Miltex, a company with whom we are working closely, which is based in Coimbatore, we actually came up with this product called the Coco Climber, which helps farmer to actually use it effectively. Even a small farmer in Kerala, even be having maybe 1 acre of land, he will be having nearly about 100 coconut trees. So that is his main income. So this Coco Climber is costing just about 18,800 rupees, inclusive of the GST. And the Kerala government, what they have done is to encourage these farmers, homestead people. They are giving 90% subsidy on this product so that they actually buy and use it, so that they don't have issues related to the coconut not being plucked on a regular basis. So this is what we call the innovative entrepreneurship. A person who is identifying the problem, what is there, and removing that pain which is there in that. That is the innovative entrepreneur. This is one example. Next slide, please. So what does an innovative entrepreneur do? One is highly motivated and talented. Innovation is the key function where he actually makes use of it. Like how you have seen the coconut climber, now it is going to go viral all over the country. You just started marketing it in Kerala, already there's been huge demand. So introduction of a new product which can actually remove that pain, whatever is there in people. So understanding their problem, creating a product which can actually remove that pain. That is innovative entrepreneur's job. Then introduction of new quality of existing products, then new method of production, opening a new market, discovering new source of supply of raw materials or semi-finished goods, or achieve monopoly or breakup of monopoly. These are the things which an innovative entrepreneur does. Second one is an adaptive or imitative entrepreneur. Now this person, he doesn't actually try to innovate or do anything. He will adopt successful innovations that are already existing. This we call in our business terms no reinvention of the wheel. There's already a wheel existing. Why do you want to reinvent it? So he actually looks at the things that are available to him, adopts it successfully in innovation, doesn't innovate anything. He imitates the technique and technology of innovating entrepreneurs. So suitable for underdeveloped countries, and this person does not actually take any risk. He avoids taking risk. The example for this is Amazon. What Amazon has done? They have given a platform to every entrepreneur, and they are making money out of this whole thing. So they are not taking any risk. They are not buying anything. They are not maintaining any inventory. They are only provided a technology platform which people can use and sell their product. So this is actually the adaptive technique. They adopt this, lot of entrepreneurs, give them an opportunity and, make this business, and they also make profits out of it. Next slide, please. Micromax became actually sort of, craze among these smartphones. What they did, they didn't do anything unique. The only thing they did is they brought down the prices drastically. That is one. Second thing is they put some features which the youth of today want, where they can easily download apps and use them for various purposes. So these people, they didn't risk actually, they just took the same platform, which technology platform which was available, did some innovation in bringing down the cost, and therefore they were successful in the market. This is another example. Next slide, please. Now, Fabian entrepreneur. Now, generally, the Fabian entrepreneur generally doubtful in nature. He doesn't know what to do, how to go about, and things like that. So he adopts with great caution and skepticism whatever he wants to do. Then he will also introduce, he will not introduce any new changes. He will just adopt to new methods. That's it. He will imitate only when business seems to be profitable. Dominated by custom, religion, tradition, and past practices, and not ready to take any risk. Next slide, please. These are the Fabian entrepreneurs. See, running a Kirana shop or having all these near a temple. If you have all the things that a person who is going to a temple, it's just the business is ready. I mean, there's no risk involved. 100% there will be business happening, and that is how. So these are known as the Fabian entrepreneurs. Next, drone entrepreneur. Don't get confused with the drones that are there being run by tech peoples, but this is like blindly follow traditional methods of production, even if it costs loss to them. That is what our farmers do. They continue to go on the traditional method, and they are not trying to adopt proper technology. They are not prepared to introduce any change under any circumstance in the method of production is already introduced. So these are those very traditional believers whom we call as drone entrepreneur. Why that word drone? Drone is it's an automated product. So this entrepreneur who comes in this category is actually automated. I mean, is 2-3 generations they have been doing the same thing. They continue to do the same. So carry business in a traditional way, even if there is loss. So example, coir industry in Kerala is dominated by drone entrepreneurs because their family education levels are low, and therefore they continue to do what their forefathers and people were doing, but they still make some very wonderful product. Now it is up to us, how we actually do value addition to these products, and we are able to give them better prices. So that is why we have tried to make this technology, bring in coconut climber. Then we have got even the coconut crusher, where the shell can be taken and fiber can be produced very easily. Nearly about 3,500 shells they can actually extract fiber from that in a single day, in a single shift. This is what we have tried to bring in that technology. And again here, the machinery cost is actually about 45 lakh of rupees. You may be thinking, how will these people, because they are all families, actually 10 families, 20 families, they'll be doing the same thing. So the family jointly will buy a machinery for 45 lakhs. 50% subsidy is there by Kerala government for the machinery, and the balance 50%, what we have done is we have got it tied up with Federal Bank for these entrepreneurs. So they only have to shell down 10% of the total cost of the machinery, which is 4,500 rupees is what they give, and the rest of it is subsidy and loans. And they have to repay it over a period of 10 years. So for them, this is a boon actually. One of the things that what I have observed is among all the other governments with whom I have worked, I have found Kerala government to be most proactive and helpful for the entrepreneurs, farmers, name them, they have been actually in the forefront. But many of the other states, I don't know why they just don't just at least copy paste and repeat success. They don't want to do. I made a presentation to the Karnataka government on how we are doing various things in Kerala, and we said that we can replicate it if you hire us as a consultant, but nobody is interested. Here only politics rules. Next. This is again, the traditional drone entrepreneurs, BD. If you go to South Canara, you will find families and families, they are only know only one thing, how to make BDs. But they are actually a living out of it. And even in COVID-19, in these sort of times, they still survive. Because this BD is something without which people can't live in those areas. They are so addicted to it. So these people continue to be in business. Next slide, please. Like you must have read this book or heard the book, What They Don't Teach at Harvard. So in management, there are so many theories that are there, but there are a lot of things which is out of the box. So whatever entrepreneurship book, if you read of Dan Hoff, it's a beautiful, Dan Hoff's book is wonderful for entrepreneurship, everything he has done, but there are three things which is not there in his book. One is the individual entrepreneurs and institutional entrepreneurs. About them, there is no reference at all. Then inheritance entrepreneurs, that is another category. Then the third is technology entrepreneurs. So let's just have a look who are these three different people. I have given an example. Next slide, please. So in an individual entrepreneur and institutional entrepreneur, majority of the entrepreneurs belong to small-scale industry sector and are individual entrepreneurs. They enjoy the benefits of flexibility, quick decision-making. Individual enterprises are not able to grow or develop beyond a particular limit, but they continue to do this through different generation. So they are individual entrepreneurs. They don't want to have a partnership. They don't want to actually, bring other companies, other people into the business, but they continue to do successful. If you have seen all those mini machine tools, MMT, then there are so many small scale industry. They have this lathe doing work year after year. They keep working on the lathe. So those sort of things, it is all individual entrepreneurs. They don't want to actually expand. They just want to do enough business so that they etch out their living. That's it. Next slide. So in the institutional entrepreneurs, one of the companies which actually started in a small garage. All of you know the story. Mr. Narayan Murthy and his friends, they actually all from IIT, they joined together and started out from a garage. And today they have become very huge institutional entrepreneur. So very few of them like this, individual entrepreneurs, they can actually grow big. That is because these people had education and they had foresight, and then they knew that, how to borrow money from the bank. So that also made a lot of difference. So this is one of the examples that I have given. The next, inherited entrepreneurs. Who are these people? Sometimes people become entrepreneurs when they inherit family business, like the Tatas, the Reliance. So it actually passes on from one generation to another. These are people who are born with a silver spoon, what we call. But they have provided, jobs for several millions of people because of that. Though they are inherited, they have also got themselves educated. They have brought in professional managers to run the company and, tried to make it grow beyond whatever their expectations were. So inherited entrepreneurs, these are the best example. Reliance, Birla, Tata, TVS, they are the people. Let's look at the technological entrepreneur. Now, technically qualified persons have entered the field of business to commercially exploit their invention and discoveries. So the whatever scientific advancements that they have made, they nowadays one big advantage is the Coco Climber. We have applied for a patent. So when something innovative comes, if you have a patent, the advantage is that you can actually share this technology, not just in the country, you can share it outside the country, make money out of it. So every product that sells, you can actually get a royalty for it. These are the advantages. So technological entrepreneurs are the ones who are actually growing in volumes and growing in time in the recent times. Next slide. The solar bike, with the prices of petrol and diesel going up day by day, this solar bike, I am sure it's going to become most popular. So this is one way of getting into something which is very unique. Now this is something which will make people happy because they don't have to spend money on fuel. They'll run it on solar energy, and therefore it's very beneficial. No pollution. So that is another benefit to the environment. So these are some of the products that, if you look at, have actually made a whole lot of difference. Next, Redbus. This is one youth, who just saw that people struggling to get their reservations done, and they travel without proper planning. So he came up with this concept of Redbus. He just got lot of private bus operators to come on his platform, and he started making money out of this thing. So this is another technology advancement which you can use to bring entrepreneurship. So classification based on stages of development. If you have seen what I sent the last few slides, you have the first generation entrepreneur, one who starts the business by innovative skills, the first person in the family. Then you have the modern entrepreneur who undertakes products for current market requirements. Again, I will say Coco Climber. This is one of the things, which present day, whatever issues were there. Then the classical entrepreneur develops, self-supporting venture, maximizes economic returns and company growth. Now, classical entrepreneurs are very interesting thing, particularly if you see our fashion business. There you will find a lot of classical entrepreneurs because they have used surface ornamentation, kasauti work, and other things. They have actually developed very good supporting ventures, and there are few companies working out of Rajasthan. They make money out of only surface ornamentation that they are doing on their fabric. So people can take this business to a great height, provided they actually apply it in the right place. Next. So let's look at classification based, motives which are there. Now, pure entrepreneur is motivated by psychological and economical rewards. Now, he actually takes the psychological need of the customer and he converts that into a product and offers it and gets his economic reward. Now, induced entrepreneur is helped by government to start a business. Now, you must have seen the various Nandini booths that are there. That is the classic example of an induced entrepreneur. People, they want to make money. They do not know how to make money, but they have some qualification. So people go and they can apply for such franchising thing and see that, they get support of the government. The government allocates public places for them near, parks and near bus stands, the booth, the milk booth, they allow them to set up. So they can actually get business wherever which is close to the all the family hubs that are there. So induced entrepreneur today is a contented person because his support is there directly from the government. One, he can also borrow money from the bank, and plus it's a branded product that he is actually selling. So Nandini is one example for that. So motivated entrepreneur. Who is a motivated entrepreneur? the person who is looking at self-fulfillment. Now, this person is an entrepreneur who actually, again, studies what are the pains of the people and actually comes up with a product that can actually market it. Now, if you have seen, the lot of these motivated entrepreneurs have actually come from Coimbatore. For example, your wet grinder, your mixies at home. Most of these products, successful products, they all come from, Coimbatore. I don't know whether, that environment gives them that courage to go in for business, but whether you want, a pump for the farming, beautiful pump sets are being manufactured in Coimbatore. So these are motivated entrepreneurs because there is an environment which has been created there, and that environment gives them the encouragement to actually start. And banks have been willing there because they know that these people, the product that they are producing, there is a commercial demand that is there for that. So that is how it happens. Spontaneous entrepreneurs, their initiative, boldness actually makes them, a very strong conviction. So these people take up a situation and become entrepreneur. The best example for spontaneous entrepreneurship is number of people who knew little tailoring. They started making masks post COVID-19. And if you are also seen on the highways, near the toll gates, everywhere, there are a number of young youths who are actually selling these masks. So they make use of the opportunity, and they actually make money out of this situation which is there. They take the pain out of the people. They know that this is actually going to sell. And the best thing that I actually was most impressed was when I was actually traveling from Coorg back. I went through 3 different toll gates there, coming on the Hassan Bangalore road. Most transgenders, they come and keep begging. For first time, I saw them selling masks. So there is sort of change that has actually brought. Maybe this pandemic has brought in several such changes in people and entrepreneurship itself. Let's look at rural entrepreneurship, which is most essential. Yes, rural entrepreneurship is most essential because no, you skipped the. Please go back to rural entrepreneurship. Yes. See, the most difficult thing that is happening in our country is the migration. All of you have observed that during this pandemic, all those people who migrated from various different parts of the country to Bangalore, to the apparel industry or the automotive industry, they all went through a very tough time. One is because the rural, the areas where they come from, there are not enough opportunities. I had this, great privilege of working with Dr. Kalam. I was the founder director of the India 2020 Center, and such a wonderful program that he actually developed called Pura. Pura means providing urban amenities in rural areas. Why do people come from rural areas to cities? Just because they don't have good educational institutions, they don't have good hospitals there, there are no industries in rural areas. So they actually migrate to different places because of this. So Dr. Kalam's program of rural entrepreneurship was, you take a particular district and you create a hub and spokes model where 20-kilometer radius people actually converge at one point, one particular village where there can be a hospital, there can be some good educational institution there, some entrepreneurship development opportunities. some small scale industries being developed. These actually made a whole lot of changes. We created 4 puras, in during that time when I was the director there. In 2 years' time, we did 4 puras. One is at Kuppam. If you ever have traveled there, you will see that that town is transformed totally, because today Kuppam has the Dravidian University there. It has one of the best hospitals, 200-bed hospitals, uh, which was set up there under this Pura program. There is a medical college there. So everything came in there. We also actually brought in companies like HP to help women set up their own small business. We had 3 or 4 women joining together. We trained them to actually run a STD telephone center, and also we gave them machines to computers to take instant photos, print it in a color printer, and give it immediately. Within 10 minutes, the people can actually get that. So all under an entrepreneurship model. So there is a whole lot of ideas that are there. The concepts are there. We need to only look at how we can adopt these to those things. We also created, the in the same place, they started doing Xerox, copying, various different documents. Then, since people started coming to get Xerox of documents, we also actually came up with an app called Boomi, where you can actually extract the information. If you want to buy land, you will know who's the owner of that land, when who's been paying taxes for that, whether it is a legal property if you want to buy. So all such things, and all women handling these particular business. So if you look around, there are many such things that are there. One of the things which I actually, on the other day, when I made the presentation on fashion marketing, in the last slides, which I could not discuss with you, I have spoken about distributed marketing. What is distributed marketing? You have migrants who are actually gone back. Like, for example, in Kerala, we have actually taken information of all the migrants who came back from Bangalore, Chennai, Andhra Pradesh, who are working in apparel industry and various other industry. We have put a data together. We found that they are all from in and around maybe 30 kilometers in and around Kannur in Kerala. So what we decided was, we will now create an apparel cluster there for making ready-made garments. We will train these women to actually run their own business. Now, how do we do that? We actually tying up with retail chains so that they give them business regularly. We are also got the government to agree that all school uniforms will be routed to these entrepreneur migrants who have come back. So that's the type of support that we can actually give. It is possible to recreate this sort of an environment in any state. We can do it in Karnataka, we can do it in Andhra Pradesh. Now, recently, I have been asked by the Andhra Pradesh government to actually help them set up of a very beautiful apparel park in near Anantapur. So I am advisor to the Andhra Pradesh government, and one of the things that we are looking at is trying to see how many of these migrants who are there can be brought into that apparel park, either to become entrepreneurs or they get into a better job there, so that they need not go back to Bangalore, they need not come back to Bangalore or to any other places from where they actually were working in the apparel sector. So these are some of the things we can actually do to help rural entrepreneurship build momentum. It is all in our hands, particularly the fashion institutes. The onus lies on them to own the students from the beginning, saying that you be yourself an entrepreneur when you actually go out of this college, so that if you seed that, if you put that seed in their mind in the beginning itself, by the time they graduate, probably they will come up with their own ideas how to actually go back to their village or go back to their city and start entrepreneurship on their own. Next slide. So here, the types of rural industries I have put here. Again, this is from my experience with India 2020 Center. So there's a lot of agro-based industries like sugar industries, jaggery, oil processing, and oil processing from oil seeds, pickles, fruits, juice. If you go to Kuppam, you will see we have set up a beautiful food park there, where a lot of these people who are, processing industry has been set up there. Actually, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu wanted to set up a garment park there, but we made a study and said the feasibility was not good because that time roads were not good connecting Chennai. Of course, after the Pura started, we have come up with wonderful roads. We now the connectivity is very good. Like now they can actually set up if they want any garment industry there. But the thing is, at that time when we wanted to look at in 2002, I'm talking about, it was very difficult. So what we recommended was we actually got a lot of fruits that are grown there. So using that, we actually set up a food park, a food processing park, and it is doing extremely well till date. And in fact, Kisan had one of their units there for making jams and jellies. So forest-based industries like food products, bamboo, honey, coir industry, making eating plates. Idukki is one of the place where we actually selected for India 2020. And Idukki in Kerala has a lot of tribal people there. So there was huge opportunity for actually collecting honey there. And then, of course, coir being, the heart of the industry in Kerala, extracting coir fibers and, converting that into different product. So a lot of bamboos which used to be there. So we taught them how to actually make products for urban markets. We created, trays. You must be seeing in all five-star hotel when they're trying to serve food to the room, they actually carry it in a tray. We convinced ITC group to adopt these products which were manufactured by these tribal people, and we made beautiful trays from bamboo, which is still being used in ITC. We also made a lot of, lamp actually cover for that, which used to be used in their hotel in the rooms. So that we need to actually have somebody to champion this, like a company, ITC company, ITC, or, the Taj Group and things like that. We need to talk to them. They'll definitely be willing to partner and help in the process because they take the pride of helping rural people and tribal people. So that is possible, and this is definitely possible if the students are encouraged to speak to industry people like this to buy products that they are teaching the artisans to make. There's a lot of mineral-based industry, stone crushing, cement industry, red oxide making, wall coating powders. So in Tamil Nadu, we actually created, this lot of stone craft, making different products, both for puja as well as even domestic usage, using that soft stone which is there. Easily they can actually do carving from that. So like this, we need to identify what could actually be done with those things, and then we need to do. And the students of the Fashion Institute, they are the people who take the ownership for this. They go when they want to do a project, they actually go to these sort of rural areas, find opportunities, look at products that are there, give them good design, and teach them how to actually make products for the urban market. That is going to make a huge difference. Then in the textile industry like spinning, weaving, coloring, bleaching, these are the things which continues to be existing in rural areas. Then there are engineering services, especially for agriculture equipments, tractors and pump sets repairs. So huge opportunities are there in creating service centers for these products, because people don't have money to buy new things, so they would like to see that it is serviced and properly reused again. Next slide, please. So here I have put concisely the domains of rural entrepreneurship. As I already told you, food processing, dehydrated fruits and vegetables, fruit-based beverages. In Karnataka, we had this strange situation. There was a lot of pineapple that was grown, and due to COVID-19, it could not be actually sold. So the farmers, they felt, one is there was no transportation also. So in such situation, what they will do? So we have now given a proposal to the government that we use the Stree Shakti of Karnataka. That's the equivalent of Kudumbashree in Kerala, with whom we are working. They are very self-motivated entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship women. Now, they know the value of every product. So we have actually recommended to the government of Karnataka that we create something called the collection centers. In each village, there will be collection centers, and these Stree Shakti women will be aggregating different products that are grown in the villages and collect them and bring them to the aggregation center. From the aggregation center, the product will directly go to retail chains. We've already spoken to organizations like Future Group and companies like McDonald's, so who are actually willing to buy these products because they require, directly from the farmers. One is they get it at a better price, plus it's actually fresh, and most farmers in the villages, they adopt organic farming, and therefore it is very safe. Products like mushrooms, chicky industries, poultry industries, cottage and handicraft, oil industry, pottery, repair of mobile phones and other things have actually been very encouraging, So rural tourism, there is a lot of opportunity in rural tourism. If you go to Hampi and all, you will see that a lot of local people are engaged in this task. And then the entertainment segment, which actually gives a huge opportunities to people. So going through all these things, I put some objectives, what you should as faculty look at, teaching for entrepreneurship. The objective should be to introduce new marketing concept to retail. This would be the focus. Second, to review the importance of marketing research for new ventures. When I say marketing research, it's not very complicated thing. You have to only look at what are the pain points that people undergo. If you find out those pain points, like I told you, people in Kerala, they were finding it very difficult to, climb up the tree and, pluck themselves. They had to depend on the professional climbers who were not forthcoming because of the better wages they were getting under the government MNREGA programs. So they have to find those problems and create a solution for that. Coco Climber is basically a solution for these people. So within 6 months, they can get back that 18,000 what they invested in that product. So to identify key elements of an effective market survey is going to be the crux to creating entrepreneurship. To present factors that inhibit the use of marketing. This is something which you have to keep in mind when you are teaching entrepreneurship. To present the emerging use of social media marketing and mobile marketing. One of the amazing thing that I have actually seen is social media can be used for very good purpose, like marketing of any product that you have. If you have 200, 300 people on your Facebook, and you put something on the Facebook and just request them, you please put it on your FB. So they may be having 200, 300 people. Like this, there is a multiplying effect that actually goes on. Every week, Dr. Sandhya Ravi every time she comments when I put these products, on Kaya and all that. Whatever products have come now, recently we have come up with something called Rangoli collection. So that Rangoli collection mats, every 15 days I put it on my FB and I tag couple of people who are very close to me, who won't mind me tagging them. And that is giving us tremendous business actually. We are having, since we have the product on Amazon, this FB acts as a information to them. I also provide the link on my Facebook for the Amazon site. So this social media marketing is something which is inexpensive. So if you have a good product which is made in rural areas, you can actually develop a good media marketing using these social medias itself. Next is to identify entrepreneurial tactics in marketing research. When I use research, don't think of very complicated thing. It is for simple things what I was trying to tell you, which is going to actually help in bringing the business. The 7th point is to examine the marketing concept, philosophy, segmentation, and consumer orientation. Now this vegetable thing, we actually saw there is an opportunity in these sort of times. The farmer is not able to come to the city and sell this product. So what we did is we launched an app which is called Hope. That app they have to download on their smartphone, and it's a buyer-seller app. They have to just put how much of tomatoes they have, how much of pineapples they have, how much of chilies that they are having. They just enter that this is the quantity available with me. So on the other hand, we have a lot of buyers who are there. Now those people will immediately contact this person saying, okay, you have 100 kg tomatoes, I am ready to buy. This is the price I'm wanting to offer to you. Now that farmer, instead of carrying it, getting a transport, paying for the transport, going to the city, he will try to sell. He cannot sell all the 100 kgs. So maybe 50 kgs he sells. And the last 50 kgs he sells in distress because he can't afford to put again in a transport and carry it back home. So that marketing concept is what we need to develop, the philosophy, segmentation, which can actually help these people from the rural areas to get better price for whatever they are producing. Then to establish the areas vital to a marketing plan. So what we have done is we call this Vitarana Kendra, the distribution center. We have set it up at all important places, in the market. So it's a general business also. People come and buy in retail whatever they want. At the same time, wholesalers also will come and buy the product. So this is sort of little marketing plan we have to do to identify place where that product can be sold. To discuss the key features of a pricing strategy. This is one thing, we need to teach our students in entrepreneurship how to actually price their product. Now, we have come up with this concept of sanitized mat. At the end of this, I will show you the film of that. Now, sanitized mat is actually for the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a two mat which is there. One is a wet mat which will be in a tray. They put 1 liter of water with 50 ml of Dettol for that. Any disinfectant. I'm just giving examples. Dettol. You pour that and it becomes wet, and then people who are walking in to your house or to office, they actually clean their food on that mat, and then there's immediately a dry mat which is actually placed. They actually dry their legs. So now, how do you price a product like that? If you are going to actually, because you are innovative, if you think that you can price it high, it's not going to work. Your objective should be that more and more number of people use this as a safety measure for their house. So how do you do? Keep as low margin as possible. Even you should be ready to sell at 5% margin as long as you are able to get numbers. So entrepreneurship is all about number game. If you are able to actually get those numbers, 5% is more than enough margins for you to actually, uh, sustain your activity. To discuss pricing in the social media age, what we have done is on Amazon and all, we have put some transparent pricing which is there of the mat. 435 rupees, they get a mat which is 1.5 feet by 2 feet, 1.5 feet by 2.5 feet, which is the standard length of any house when you are entering. So it's 435 rupees, affordable price. Anybody can spend 435 rupees. It's free delivery to them at home. So that makes things very simple. So let us look at the new marketing concepts for entrepreneurs. This I have already discussed in my fashion program. So we need to actually apply these 4 P's and 4 C's here. You need to come up with a product and you have to get it co-created to a situation like what we have done the COVID matter. Then from promotion to the communities, to community, what is the requirements if we know, we need to actually promote the product using the communities. So one of the things what we have actually recommended to the Karnataka government with these Stree Shakti women is we have actually tied up with the Tatas. They are willing to actually give them, small 2-ton vehicle for them to be mobile, to sell their vegetables and fruits, whatever it is. Now, what this truck will do is it will actually carry the product, go to apartments from 6 o'clock to 6:30, one particular maybe Shobha apartments, 6:30 to 7 Mantri apartments. So they go and park the vehicle in front of the gate, and all the people through a brochure, they are informed that on specific days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they will come at this time. So the people who are there in the apartment, they know. They don't have to walk up to the market to buy these fruits and vegetables. They can get it there. So these are connecting communities, how we can connect them innovatively. And there is an entrepreneur who is making money out of it. So 10 Stree Shakti's women together pool money to buy one tempo. And that is also financed by bank. They can repay over a period of 5 years. And we actually custom build that so that vegetables can be displayed, people can see and ask what they want. So lot of things we need to actually innovate and see how under situation we can make things easy for people, at the same time easy for the entrepreneur to earn, so they don't have to get stuck. From price to customizable things is what is going to be the future, because when you customize, your customer feels that this is something unique that has been made, and therefore prepared to pay even little extra. Some from place to choice. This is also examples I have already given in the fashion program. So I think you can refer back to that. I don't want to repeat the same thing. So to connect, create, collaborate, and contextual is what most important for entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. So need for rural entrepreneurship, I have already explained to you, but what are the criteria which you need to actually look at? I have listed out here. So when you are teaching, it will become easy for you to actually use this slide to teach them. So Rural entrepreneurship creates employment generation. It reduces disparity in income between rural and urban income. It promotes balanced regional development. It will protect and promote art and creativity. Then economic development in rural areas will happen. So the importance of it, I have listed here. Less gestation period if you do rural entrepreneurship, because within few probably 6 weeks or 10 weeks, you will know what is the response and what corrections is required in your business. So what is the customer wanting to buy, and you need to actually correct the product mix accordingly. Socio-economic transformation of rural areas. So this will actually transform the rural areas if we are actually involving the youth in this way, and the women particularly. They are the ones who make the difference in the society. So it's going to be very effective if we are able to teach them, how they can transform the rural life. And employment at place of residence. See, now I was talking about the migrants. Now this facility which we are developing in Kannur, the apparel cluster, it's going to give all these entrepreneurs, one, to be in their hometown. The second thing is the job, whatever they learned didn't go waste. So we are providing employment in the same area. So this actually makes a whole lot of difference. So employment at the place of their residence makes quite a big difference to them. So solution to disguised unemployment. These I told you about vegetable distribution center involving women. They actually procure. They know very well where each of these things are grown. So it's very easy for them. So the unemployment problem will be solved by actually collectively getting these women to work. Participation of women folk is very, very key to success of any of the entrepreneurship. Whether you are going to make spices, papads and things like that and sell, again there, the men may sit in the shop, but the women is one which drives the business. So this sort of participation of women tremendously improves the employment opportunities in the rural areas. It will reduce poverty, and rural industry and environment will get developed. Next. Again, same extension of what the benefits that can be, derived out of the rural entrepreneurship. So already we have discussed all this, but most important is to reduce poverty, growth of slums, pollution in cities, and ignorance of inhabitants. These are some of the big benefits that will happen. And now with the Swachh Bharat campaign and the government coming forward for the village people to build their toilets, it's all making a whole lot of a difference in the attitude and also the lifestyle of these people. Next slide. Let's actually look at what are the rural entrepreneurship thing. One is financial constraints. We know that. So what I want to emphasize here is today the present government, under the Atmanirbhar program that they have launched, anybody can borrow loan up to 5 lakh of rupees without any collateral security. So this is the thing. Anything beyond 5 lakhs, there is something called the Mudra loan, which has been there for quite some time. So when you are teaching entrepreneurship, this is one of the things that you people have to teach them and probably train them, saying that don't feel that you don't have money, so you can't start a business. How many people have started business with their own money? If you see successful entrepreneurs, they all borrowed. Infosys, they actually, each of them put 5,000 rupees. If they have read the Infosys story, 7 of them put 5,000 rupees each and started. That is because they require 2 computers. So it's all matter of understanding how to actually, get over this financial constraint. Now there are plenty of opportunities. Please teach the students saying that, and probably, you should have a Mudra scheme and the Atmanirbhar program, whatever the state government funding programs are there. These things should be part of the things that you teach people during entrepreneurship, because their awareness is there for them. Then lack of communication and market information. Now there are, internet is a big, it's a sort of very educative thing for people. You just Google for anything and everything you get an answer. So communication and market information are available at fingertips now. They don't have to do market survey where this product is going to sell, things like that. So all this information is available on the net. Poor quality raw material and other inputs is not there anymore. Today, people are very much aware that only quality product sells. So therefore, when it is poor quality, I can only say that Chinese products that are coming imported, again selling on Amazon. So beware when you are buying any of the products there, thinking it is very cheap. The thing, most of the time, you end up buying a Chinese product which doesn't work even properly for 3 months. Lack of storage and warehousing facility. This is something which is bothering entrepreneurs. But now warehousing facilities are provided by the government in every district. It is available at a very competitive price. They have to make use of it. So I won't emphasize again. I have just listed this so that when you are teaching to the students, you can actually look at each of these factors, problem areas, in the rural, what it is. Because in urban, it is different. In rural, it is different. This is the only things that you need to actually understand when you are teaching entrepreneurship as a subject. Next slide, please. Yeah, again, same, listing of the problems that are there. So how do we develop rural entrepreneurship? Already I've given you examples how we actually started, vegetable vending as one of the rural entrepreneurship. Strengthen the raw material base in rural areas, means whatever they have there now, from pesticides to seeds, everything. There is an opportunity for an entrepreneur to set up a store and sell these products. I am associated with an organization here on Mysore Road called Ratnagiri Impex. This organization runs chain of stores called AgriMart. Anything you want related to agriculture, whether it is any automation, implements, tools, seeds, fertilizers, everything at one point. And all their stores, are designed almost same, standard design, and it is there in almost every village today. So in Karnataka, they are having about 85 stores. Across the country, they have 500 plus stores. So it's these are all individual local entrepreneurs who have become their franchisees. Okay, so such opportunities exist in every other businesses. This is what you should teach students about opportunities that are there. Franchising is one good area because the brand is there, branding is there, advertisement will be done by the company which is promoting that product, and therefore the popularity of the product will go up very fast. Funds should be available on time at soft terms and conditions, which is there now. Karnataka Finance Corporation is there. They also support small businesses. MSME is there, which supports small businesses. So we need to only look at various options that are there. And of course, all commercial banks lending for small entrepreneurs has become very easy now under the Pradhan Mantri, program. develop entrepreneurial competency through trainings. Core importance we need to give for the training. Anybody who wants to become entrepreneur, he needs to undergo proper training in the area that he's wanting to develop. That's going to be a prime. So one of the things that I would suggest to the management of NITI is have a 3-month entrepreneurial development program which can cover all aspects of this, which includes the final part where you bring one of the bank managers to talk about various schemes that are there, because they are the best people to actually deliver this lecture to the students, and probably they can distribute the loan application form to all these people, and the faculty who is actually taking this program can actually help these entrepreneurs to find the make the DPR for it. We can have standard template in which this can be available. And if your management is willing, I've got a beautiful entrepreneurship program. I'm very happy to just tell you today that the TAFE Australia has approved the entrepreneurship program that I have developed, and it is going to be used in their university to teach students entrepreneurship. So I can actually give this to NITTE, and I'll be very happy also to come and deliver guest lectures wherever possible. So this is one way of actually going through the entrepreneurship program. Next slide. So how to develop rural entrepreneurship, I've already explained. I have listed here because this is going to be circulated to all the faculty. So just as a point, bullet point I put here, common production cum marketing centers are necessary in each of the villages. That will actually help in developing of entrepreneurship. So for example, the apparel cluster, what we have done is in the apparel cluster, there is a separate common facility for dyeing, printing and all that, so that no environment problems will happen. We have created the facility, a common facility center, where they can come and do their dyeing and printing and whatever it is there. They actually pay for what they use. So this is one innovative way of actually creating a cluster where you can help people to do business without spoiling the environment. Next slide. So the need for actually sowing the dream in the minds of the rural youth, from my experiences, I've actually felt the youth in rural areas have little options, but we can actually tell them how they can actually develop these options and become entrepreneurs. This is the reason that many of them either work at farm or migrate to urban land. So if we are able to get them to understand that they can rurally develop some entrepreneurship, it is going to help them in a big way. So entrepreneurship could be the best option, and we need to make them realize that. So if planted and nurtured in the minds of rural women and youth, I have found that the rural women and youth, they are more, as I told you, ready to take certain risks, because they self-confident that if they do it, they will be able to do it better. So that particular mindset, which is very important, is there in rural people. They really work hard and work hard for success. Next slide. I have put here the advantages. I don't have to go through it again. I've already told you this thing. But the biggest advantage is when you are setting up any small industry in rural areas, there are tax holidays and tax advantages. You have to emphasize this on the people who are actually wanting to become entrepreneur. This will go great way in making them successful entrepreneurs. Next slide. I have put here, the five dots that we need to connect. So one is we need to have the knowledge of the market. Then based on that, we have to develop the marketing plan, and then proper approach to pricing strategy, which I told you how to price the product. It is very important. Then understanding and application of social media, which will make a big inroads into advertising of your product, and then understanding of market research, which can help them, to sell the product easily to customers. I think one more click is required. Can you bring in all the things that is there in the slide, please? Yeah. So defining the research purpose and objective. So what you need to actually look at is where do potential customers go to purchase the goods or service in question, which the entrepreneur is wanting to, start. Why do they choose to go there? This is something which we need to understand. What is the size of the market for the product? So how much of it can the business capture? So how does the business compare with competitors? These are some questions an entrepreneur should actually think before he starts a business. So what impact does the business promotion have on customers? If these things, if he is able to find out the answers, then he can go ahead, set up his business and start. Next slide. This is about social media. I won't emphasize any further. I think all of you know about this. Create, enable, encourage is what I feel social media can do. And I've also given you example of how I use social media for my choir marketing. That World Yoga Day, we came up with yoga mats. So I used the social media and put it about the yoga mats that we were having. We came up with a very sleek carry bag for that yoga mat, because people who go to yoga centers to learn yoga, we wanted them to feel easy carrying this mat. So we came up with a nice sling bag for it. So every pain points, whatever is there, we have to find solutions for it to make it a success. So key distinctions of social media marketing I have listed here. I won't emphasize much. And most of us are aware of how important it is and how we ourselves have probably seen many of the innovative products on the Facebook, and we have tried to buy it. Next slide. So that's it. I think on time have finished. Can we play that one video, please? The last one, the Sani mat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are playing that, sir.
This is actually called a dynamic video. It actually gives the customer It's like a product literature because they get it on their WhatsApp. And what we are doing is we are marketing these mats with the Kudumbashree. There are 1,75,000 members. Now they are the people who are selling our mats. So that Dear Vimala, what you saw is something which we have customized. Now each of the 1,75,000 person, this video message will go with their personal names, so that they feel very proud that we have given them so much of respect and regard, and trying to communicate to them with their name. And they in turn are actually selling our products to offices, banks, jewelry stores, like that. So these women were actually going through very tough time during this COVID-19 because there were no wages on the jobs that they were doing. The farm work was not happening because no transportation was there. So we thought that there is an opportunity here involving the Kudumbashree women, and also they are good in marketing. So they understand the need of hygiene, and they are better ambassadors for this product. So we used every other things that is possible to market this product. So this is how we need to actually look at innovative marketing and innovative entrepreneurship. So again, this Kudumbashree women getting involved in selling this again was a very innovative entrepreneurship program. Each one of them, they are in a position to sell 100, 200 mats, and they make sufficient margins through that. And most important thing is they use their contacts to sell this product. So it's going to be that much easier for them because they are familiar with their neighbors, the people, family, friends, circle. So they use all this to strategize and market the product. So thank you very much. I hope I have given the most important things that is there in entrepreneurship. I will also share the program what I've actually the Australian government has approved. Probably your institute can actually start that. There are two programs I have actually created for entrepreneurship. One for the apparel sector, other one is for family business entrepreneurs. How to train them and get them acclimatized to the condition. And we also teach them what are all the schemes that are available for finance of starting this entrepreneurship.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with our participants. Indeed, it was very informative and interesting session. Sandhya ma'am.
Pratima ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there are some questions, Pratima ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, with your permission, I would like to read out the questions raised by the participants.
Yeah, certainly.
The first question from Ashwini Gowda. According to you, is there difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman?
See, entrepreneur is someone who puts his own money and starts something which can actually be useful for the society. Businessman basically is a trader. So he doesn't do any innovation. He doesn't take he doesn't look at creating new products and ideas. He's only making use of whatever existing products that are there, and he distributes them. He's a businessman. Entrepreneur is he himself starts developing the product and he's marketing it.
Okay, sir. Hope that has answered to Ashwini Gowda. And the second question from Rajendra Kumar. Exports of apparel in this pandemic time is under crisis. Please throw some light on entrepreneurs venturing into textile or apparel export.
I think on the first day session also, I told you when I was the DDG of Apparel Export Promotion Council, I used to talk to all the exporters We used to have every quarter, meetings at different areas. Like, I used to travel to Tirupur, meet all the Tirupur exporters. I used to go to Ludhiana, meet all the exporters there. I used to tell them, please build a domestic market for your products because it's going to be very important. There are many who actually listened to me and started, domestic brands. So they have been able to sustain without any problem. But 80% of exporters are in deep trouble now because all their orders have got cancelled. So they don't know what to do. Now, there are some products which they can actually offload in the local market. But the thing is, local market is already, suffered very badly because of the lockdown. No businesses were open and they were not selling anything. So it's actually going to be very tough for these people. It will take at least another 1 year for them to dilute whatever stocks that they are having with them. But also, if they are having high price product, which has a lot of surface ornamentation and things like that, it's going to be very difficult. One is they can't undersell it. At the same time, they cannot hold the stock. So I don't know under such circumstances, what are the choices available for them. So they will only have to sell it at the price at which they produce the product, leaving margins, everything, at least to recover whatever investment they did on the product. So that's the only way that they can do.
Okay, sir, thank you. One more question from Vaishali Menon. Is it possible to offer short-term internships to students in rural cluster for getting hands-on experience?
That should be made compulsory. See, at NIFT, we had this internship program, which we used to send them to rural areas to minimum 8 weeks. So that should become part of your program because there are huge learnings that they can actually get from rural if they do any internship in rural areas. So it will be guiding them for a better future of their own, and also that may also ignite them to become entrepreneurs. So that is one benefit that will actually come out of that. See, we had 726 cooperative societies across Andhra Pradesh. That time it was a united, it's a one state, Andhra Pradesh. So we had in the design, garment manufacturing, everything put together, 240 students. So we got 240 students to go and work with each of these cooperative society. The marketing department went and did internship to see how they can market that product. The design students went and did program with them to see how to develop better designs from what they are doing. So garment manufacturing people went there to see what value addition they can do, in home furnishing and everything. Textile people went there, textile students went there to teach them, block printing and things like that, which are not very complicated, but can be done at a local level. So there is definitely value addition that will actually happen. Plus, the students also will benefit a lot.
Okay, sir. One more question. Many traditional business like handloom and handicrafts are not becoming an inherited business due to lack of revenue. So, will those business become obsolete? And how to overcome this challenge?
Handlooms, actually, it is slowly losing that interest in it because it is inherited business. So the next generation, what those weavers have done is they have realized that they have not been having proper education. So therefore, they are stuck with this trade. So they have actually put their children in very good education. One very good example I will tell you is when I was dealing with APCO, I was actually looking at reviving APCO. So one Kusum Rajaya who was there working in the handlooms department, very senior person. He comes from a weaver's family. He also is the innovator who came up with this ahimsa silk. Silk, worms generally actually, that thing is boiled and the worms are killed. But he has come up with a concept where he allows the worm to open and go out and takes that cocoon and he actually develops silk out of that. It's a very difficult task. So I encouraged him to even go for patenting. Now it's patented actually, that whatever technology did in that. He has a son and a daughter. Both of them are in US. Because he felt, that this trade is not going to, help his family. So with this generation, he was the third in the generation that weaving is completely gone. All machinery equipments he had, he sold it off. So sadly, handlooms is actually losing. Also, the government also is not taking any interest to somehow safeguard this or encourage them. So I think in matter of time, with the cheap Chinese material being available, in fact, these Chinese people have even started replicating, the handloom, the look-alike handloom they started making. This ikat and Pochampalli saris, that's actually the intricate work. Actually, they have been using machinery to print that. So I think at some point of time, this handloom will totally, probably the next generation, they will have to see this only in a museum.
Okay, sir. So one last question. I think it's again same thing repeated. How to promote handloom sectors, especially for silk and also for mat weaving?
See, the only customer bank that we have for these handlooms and things are those five-star hotels, and all these what you call people that is in US, UK, and all. They want eco-friendly product. So silk they find is eco-friendly, and they actually buy it because also the fall of that is good and things like that. So we need to only depend on export markets for this, because still there are people who appreciate this and buy. You will be surprised to know that the White House complete furnishing of the visitors' lounge was done using the material from Pochampalli. We had created some home furnishing. Today, whatever White House the visitors launch that is there, all the upholstery on the visitors launch is done up with that. So we should be lucky to get such opportunities, and it will survive. So only thing is the design concept should be great to survive this sort of market.
Oh, okay, sir. That was the last question. I hope we have answered all the questions. Thank you again, sir, on behalf of Nitte School of Fashion Technology and Interior Design in association with Bengaluru Central University. Once again, thank you, Dr. Nathan, NVR Nathan, sir, for accepting our invitation and detailing on the topic entrepreneurship.
Nathan, sir, thank you very much. It was indeed a very, very interesting session and very informative. And whatever you mentioned for Nitte, I'm certainly going to take up with the management so that we'll be able to cater to the students' needs and help them become entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya. Thank you all for this wonderful opportunity, sharing my little knowledge in these areas.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
I
you.
hope to visit your college once everything turns normal.
Sure, sir. You're always welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Dear participants, feedback form is shared in the chat box. Please fill the feedback form. It will be active only for 10 to 15 minutes. Please fill the form on time. Please note the second session by Mr. Ganeshan on topic apparel computer aided design will start at sharp 12 p.m. You are all requested to join the meeting at least 5 minutes prior to the commencement of the session. See you all in the second session. Thank you.